Revenue dropped 33%. They lost over $1 million, yet somehow they generated more than $500,000 in positive cash flow. How? Well, by holding a massive corporate garage sale. Welcome to the Edgar Brief. Today we're cracking open the Q1 2026 10Q filing from Educational Development Corporation, ticker EDUC, filed for the period ending May 31st, 2026, and we're translating it into plain English. Quick note, before we jump into the roadmap, we use AI to help summarize this data, and we are not financial advisors, so always verify on sec.gov before making any money decisions. Today we're covering 1. The business model, 2. The Q1 scorecard, 3. The moat check, 4. Reading between the lines, 5. Major red flags, and 6. The bottom line. Let's get right to it. Section 1. The business model. To really understand EDUC, you have to think of them as essentially a two-lane toll booth for children's books and educational toys. They source the products, and then they push them out to families through two very distinct lanes. One lane is their paper pie division. Think of this like Tupperware parties, but for kids' books. They use a multi-level marketing structure with an army of independent reps, what they call brand partners, who sell directly to parents via internet parties, home shows, and school book fairs. The other lane is their publishing division, which is traditional wholesale. They sell directly to retail stores, museums, and specialty shops. So basically, EDUC is a distributor that makes money by buying books wholesale and taking a cut of the transaction when they pass them down through their reps or into retail shops. Moving on to Section 2, the Q1 scorecard. This quarter paints a picture of a classic turnaround, balancing on a real knife's edge. The business is shrinking, and management is pulling every lever they have just to maintain liquidity. Starting with the revenue trend, the actual dollars walking in the door dropped sharply. Last year in Q1, they brought in $7.1 million. This quarter, just about $4.8 million. That is a brutal 33% haircut year over year. Simply put, fewer books are moving through the toll booth. And that massive drop in sales naturally trickled right down to the bottom line. After paying for the books, the commissions, the warehouse rent, the shipping, they were left with a painful net loss of about $1.4 million. So they are not currently profitable from their actual day-to-day business operations. But here is where we need to put on our investor hats. As any sharp analyst knows, accounting profit can be fiction, but cash isn't. Net income includes all sorts of non-cash accounting rules. To see if a company is actually bleeding out, we need to look at free cash flow, the hard currency actually moving in and out of their bank accounts. Surprisingly, despite that heavy $1.4 million accounting loss, the company actually generated a positive operating cash flow of roughly $564,000 this quarter. Wait. What? Their bank account actually got fatter while they were supposedly losing money? How exactly did they pull this off? Well, by essentially holding a massive garage sale to pay the rent. They liquidated roughly $1.4 million in old inventory. When you sell inventory you already paid for months or years ago, you bring in cash today without having to spend new cash to stock the shelves. It keeps the lights on, sure, but you can only sell the furniture to pay the rent for so long. Let's switch gears to Section 3, the moat check. We need to know what protects them from a competitor crushing them tomorrow. In a highly competitive publishing industry, what durable advantages stop customers from just pulling out their phones and buying a random kids book on Amazon for cheaper? Their moat relies on two things. First, outright ownership of distinct brands like Kane Miller and SmartLab Toys, but their absolute crown jewel, the deepest part of their moat, is holding the exclusive U.S. direct sales distribution rights for USBORNE children's books. USBORNE books are incredibly popular. If a mom wants to sell them at a home party in the US, she literally has to go through EDUC. That brings us to Section 4, reading between the lines. Let's see if management is owning these rough results or just making excuses. Remember that army of independent sales reps we talked about? It plummeted 31%, dropping from 7,700 down to 5,300 active partners. Management blames this on two major headwinds. First, inflation squeezing family budgets, which really hurts their target demographic of young parents. Second, past restrictions from their lender literally stop them from buying new book titles. In a direct sales model, that's a vicious cycle. No new books means bored reps, which means falling sales. Management claims that now that they have a new loan, they can finally buy new titles and revitalize the sales force. But those lender restrictions lead us directly into Section 5, major red flags. Buried in the back of this document, there is an existential threat here we absolutely cannot ignore. EDUC has a massive, glaring supplier concentration risk with USBORNE. Because of their cash crunch, EDUC actually missed their minimum purchase requirements with USBORNE. They failed to provide a required letter of credit. In retaliation, USBORNE is currently withholding a $1 million volume rebate, and, crucially, under the terms of their new agreement, EDUC has been completely banned from selling USBORNE products to retail stores. This crack in the moat is terrifying. Because Edumist missed those minimum purchases, the filing explicitly states this non-compliance gives USBORNE the right to terminate their core distribution contract on less than 30 days written notice. USBORNE hasn't pulled the trigger yet, but they hold the absolute power to just vaporize Edumist's primary competitive advantage in a month. And further showing you their razor-thin margin of safety, let's look at their new financing. They secured a new $2 million credit line from Regent Bank for working capital. But to get it, CEO Craig White had to personally guarantee the loan. Listen, when a public company's CEO has to put their own personal assets on the line just to secure $2 million in operating cash, it tells you exactly how tight things really are. Okay, let's pull all of this together for Section 6, the bottom line. The verdict here is that EDUC is a turnaround story that's currently liquidating its past inventory just to survive. They are leaning entirely on this cash generation to keep the lights on, all while teetering on the edge of a critical existential supplier vulnerability with USBORNE. So, when the next filing drops, here is your definitive checklist to track. Number 1, does USBORNE pull the plug or do they renegotiate? Number 2, does this new credit line actually allow them to buy the fresh titles needed to rebuild their brand partner army? And number 3, will those new titles finally stabilize the top-line revenue? The ultimate question is, can this inventory garage sale last long enough to save the business? That is your Edgar brief on Educational Development Corporation. This was a translation, not a recommendation. Read the original on sec.gov if anything here piqued your interest. Thanks for being with us at the Edgar brief. We'll see you in the next filing.